brother claimed I stole his ideas. His ideas were terrible, and mine are patented with my name only clear. He says it into the microphone like he owns the room. Not like a joke, not like a bitter aside, like a verdict. She stole my idea, my brother Aaron snaps, pointing straight at me, while the projector behind him still shows my company logo and the words product launch in bright corporate lettering. The MC's smile freezes. A few people laugh nervously, like maybe this is some edgy sibling banter. It isn't. My throat tightens so fast it feels like my body is trying to swallow my heart. I can feel every eye in the auditorium swinging toward me. Investors, staff, my client from Melbourne who flew in this morning, my patent attorney who came to be supportive, and, worst of all, our parents sitting in the third row with their faces already turning into that familiar expression. Not concern for me, but concern about embarrassment. I stand up before I even realize I'm moving. My chair scrapes the floor too loud. The sound echoes. Aaron keeps talking, voice rising, feeding off the attention like he always does. I've been working on this for years, and she just took it, filed it, and now she's pretending it's hers. It's fraud. It's theft. He searches for a bigger word and lands on evil. The MC finally reaches for the mic, try to cut him off gently, but Aaron jerks away like a man being silenced by the system. My hands are cold, but my face is hot. I can feel my pulse in my ears. I look toward the side of the stage where my bag is, where the folder is, because of course there's a folder. There's always a folder when it comes to Aaron. The part of me that still hopes for family decency whispers, don't do this here. Don't make it worse. But another part of me, the part that spent years being politely set on fire, says he chose the stage. Fine, you'll answer on the stage. It started on a Tuesday night in April, the kind of normal weeknight where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. Which is funny now, because I can trace most of my biggest disasters back to normal family moments that went sideways the second Aaron got bored. I'd gone to our parents' house for dinner because my mom had been texting family night. Like it was a cute tradition and not an obligation, she used to keep tabs on everyone. I brought a salad. Aaron arrived 40 minutes late with no apology, dropped into a chair like a guest of honor, and immediately started complaining about his latest boss being jealous of him. I remember him grabbing a bread roll and saying, mouth full, I've got this business idea that's going to blow everything up. I'm serious. It's the next big thing. Aaron has had the next big thing since he was 16. Crypto at 19. A revolutionary gym supplement at 22. A car detailing app at 27 that never got past a logo. He collects ideas the way some people collect sneakers. Keeps them pristine in his mind. Talks about them like trophies. Never takes them for a walk. My parents, especially my dad, always acted like Aaron's ideas were evidence of genius. My ideas, when I had them, were practical, which in our family was code for small. That Tuesday, he launched into a rambling pitch about smart inventory systems and AI and frictionless supply chains, like he'd swallowed a TED Talk. It was all buzzwords and vibes. At one point, he gestured with his fork like he was conducting an orchestra and said, imagine a sensor that just knows. It knows when something is about to break. It tells you before it happens. You save money, you save time, you save the whole business. I remember blinking at him because here's the part that matters. Predictive maintenance is not a new concept. It's an entire industry. There are journals, patents, products, companies doing it. I work in industrial design and hardware systems. I'd spent the last 5 years building very unsexy solutions for warehouses and logistics companies. I knew what was real and what was fantasy. Aaron's version was fantasy. But the phrase that stuck in my brain that night wasn't his AI sensor nonsense. It was something smaller. He complained about a warehouse he toured for work and said, their biggest issue isn't the machines breaking. It's the stupid human stuff. People don't scan. They misplace things. They forget. The system doesn't match reality. If there was a way to make the system update itself without relying on humans, it would change everything. That, unfortunately, was the first time Aaron accidentally said something true. I didn't jump up and shout, Eureka! I finished my dinner. I washed dishes with my mom while she complained about my aunt's Facebook posts. I went home and opened my laptop like I always do when something practical clicks. I started sketching a concept I'd been circling for months. A low-cost retrofit device that could attach to existing storage units, track movement and location changes automatically, and reconcile inventory with minimal human input. Not AI that knows. A specific mechanism, a specific method, a specific system integration that fit the real world. I didn't tell Aaron. Not because I was plotting. Because I didn't think Aaron owned the concept of humans mess up inventory. Because I didn't think he'd remember what he said after dessert. Because in my experience, Aaron only cared about an idea for as long as it made him feel impressive in a room. I worked quietly for weeks. I did what I always do. I tested. I documented. I wrote down versions, dates, what worked, what failed. I met with a patent attorney because my boss at the time had drilled it into me. If you build something novel, you protect it properly. The attorney, Priya, asked me the questions attorneys ask. What's the novelty? What's the prior art? What's the claim strategy? Who contributed? What's the timeline? I handed her my notebooks and my email threads and my CAD iterations. She didn't ask who talked about it over dinner. She asked who invented the claims. When you've spent your life in a family where the loudest person is treated like the smartest person, it's hard to explain how healing it was to be in a room where evidence mattered, where dates mattered, where work mattered. I filed a provisional first. Then I filed the utility application with Priya's help once we had the design locked. I did it under my own name because it was my invention and I wasn't about to play games with inventorship. It wasn't like I woke up one day and went, let me steal from my brother. It was like I built a thing for months and then I did the boring, expensive paperwork to protect it. The patent application wasn't a victory lap. It was a mortgage payment-sized line item in my budget. When Aaron found out, it was because my mother cannot keep information inside her skull if she thinks it could earn her social points. I made the mistake of mentioning casually at another family dinner, I'm working on a new product. We filed the patent application last month. My mother's eyes lit up like Christmas. A patent, she said loudly, like we were on a game show. Like a real patent. Priya had warned me not to discuss details publicly while things were pending, so I kept it vague. Yeah, it's for a hardware system. It's still early. Aaron's head snapped toward me. He didn't smile. He didn't ask questions. He just stared like I'd said something in a language he didn't understand. What kind of system? He asked, too casually, like he was trying to sound uninterested. I hesitated. Inventory reconciliation, I said. Warehouse stuff. The air changed. It's hard to describe, but you know when you say the wrong thing around someone volatile and your body registers danger before your brain can catch up? My stomach sank. Aaron set his glass down slowly. That's my idea, he said. I actually laughed because my first instinct was that he was joking. What? My idea, he repeated, and his voice got tight. I told you about it. You remember. I literally pitched that at dinner. My dad's eyebrows lifted, like we'd reached the entertainment part of the night. My mom's eyes flicked between us like a spectator at tennis. Oh, she said too brightly. Well, you two are always thinking of the same things. It runs in the family. No, Aaron said louder. It doesn't. She took it. I felt my face flush. Aaron, predictive inventory systems exist. You didn't invent the concept of warehouse automation. You're doing it again, he snapped. Doing what? Talking down to me, he said, acting like I'm stupid. I said first. You heard me say it. You stole it. And now you're making me sound like I'm crazy. There it was. That magical Aaron move. Accuse, then declare himself the victim of your reaction. I try to be calm. I said, if you think you have a claim, talk to a lawyer. Patents don't work like I said at first. They work like who invented the actual claims. He stood up so fast his chair hit the wall. Oh my God, he said, laughing in that sharp way he does when he's furious. You're unbelievable. You're actually unbelievable. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames in my parents' hallway rattled. My mom stared at me like I'd ruined dessert. You didn't have to say it like that, she murmured. I remember looking at her and thinking, it does not matter what I say. In her mind, the problem is never what Aaron does. It's always how I react to it. Over the next month, Aaron escalated the way he always escalates. Publicly, dramatically, with the confidence of someone who's never been held to facts. He posted vague things on LinkedIn about idea theft and watch out for snakes. He messaged one of my clients from an old networking event and wrote, "You should know you're working with someone unethical." He called my dad and sobbed about how I betrayed him, which would have been almost funny if it wasn't so manipulative. My parents started calling me with that familiar tone, concern masquerading as criticism. "Can't you just talk to him?" my dad asked. "I did," I said. "He's lying." Well, my mom said carefully, "He really believes it." And there it was again, belief as a substitute for reality. Then Priya forwarded me an email with the subject line, "Cease and desist." My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down on my office carpet. The email was from a lawyer. Real letterhead, real signature, real threat language. It claimed Aaron had proprietary rights to the concept and that I needed to stop commercializing it immediately or face legal action. I called Priya. She read it quiet for a moment, then said, very calmly, "This is weak." I exhaled like I've been holding my breath for a week. "Weak like what?" "Weak like it's a pressure tactic," she said. "We'll respond. Do not reply directly. Also, just so you know, people do this when they can't prove anything. They try to scare you into sharing." "Sharing what?" "Money," she said. "Credit. Ownership. Sometimes they want to force you into listing them as an inventor, which would be fraudulent if it's not true." I stared at my wall, at the framed photo of my dog, at the version of my life I'd fought to build. "He's my brother," I whispered, because the sentence felt ridiculous. Like, how are these the words I'm saying as an adult? Priya sighed. "I'm sorry," she said, "but this is also business, and your job is to protect your work." So we did what you do when you have nothing to hide and someone is trying to rewrite history. We answered with documentation. Priya sent a formal response explaining inventorship requirements, pointing out the prior art landscape, noting the data development timeline, and, politely, surgically, stating that Aaron's alleged idea was not reflected in the claims of the patent application and that he had provided no evidence of contribution. She attached nothing confidential, but made it clear we had the receipts. Aaron, of course, didn't take the hint. He pivoted to a new accusation, that I must have used his notes, that I must have stolen his files, which would have been impressive considering Aaron doesn't keep notes unless they're on a napkin he loses. This is where the story takes the turn that would sound fake if I hadn't lived it. Aaron tried to involve our parents as witnesses. He convinced them that they'd heard him pitch it first, and therefore they should back him up. My parents, who have never understood the difference between feelings and facts, thought this was reasonable. They asked me to come over and talk it out. I went because some part of me still wanted to believe they could behave like adults if I showed up calm and prepared. I brought the folder. I brought printed copies of dated documents, my initial concept sketches, the early prototype photos, the email thread with Priya, the invoices, the meeting notes. I brought the product development timeline like I was presenting in court because with my family, you basically are. Aaron was already there when I arrived, sitting at the table like a king waiting for tribute. He had a stack of papers too, which turned out to be printouts of his LinkedIn posts and a few generic articles about idea theft he'd highlighted like a college freshman discovering capitalism. My mother started by crying. That's her signature move. Set the emotional tone so everyone feels guilty for having boundaries. "I just want my children to love each other," she said, dabbing her eyes like she was in a drama. Aaron leaned back and said, "Tell her to admit it." My dad looked at me. "Did you use his idea?" he asked, and I swear to God, something in me almost snapped clean in half. Not anger, sadness, because my dad saw me work my entire life. He saw Aaron float through life on charm and excuses. And still, when Aaron claimed something loudly enough, my dad's first instinct was to doubt me. I set the folder down. "I didn't steal anything," I said, "and I'm not going to be put on trial in this house." Aaron scoffed. "Then prove it." "I can," I said, and I opened the folder. For the next 20 minutes, I walked them through the timeline like I was teaching a class of people who didn't want to learn. I show my early sketches. I showed the first prototype photo with the metadata date. I showed the email to my supplier. I showed Priya's invoice. I explained inventorship. That talking about a problem is not inventing a solution. That claims are about the specific mechanism and method. I kept my voice steady even when my mother sighed dramatically or my brother laughed under his breath. Aaron finally cut in, waving his own papers. I said at first, he insisted. I said you could remove the human error. That's the whole thing. That's what you did. That's my concept. I looked at him and said, very quietly, Aaron, you said a sentence at dinner. A sentence that made you rich, he snapped. I'm not rich, I said, because I wasn't. I was investing everything back into the product. I was paying lawyers, engineers, suppliers. Aaron's understanding of business was that if a person had a logo, they were swimming in cash. My dad cleared his throat, but he did mention something about warehouses. He said, like he was trying to be fair. Dad, I said, and I hated how my voice trembled. If I mention cars at dinner, does that mean I invented Tesla? Aaron slammed his hand on the table. You're such a jerk, he said. You always do this. You always act like everyone is stupid except you. My mom jumped in immediately. Don't call your sister stupid, she scolded Aaron, but it was soft, performative. Then she turned to me and said, sharper, and you don't have to be sarcastic. There was again, equalizing the wrong thing, correcting my tone instead of his behavior. I closed the folder. Here's what's going to happen, I said, and my own calm surprised me. I'm not putting Aaron on my patent because he didn't invent it. I'm not giving him money because he yelled about it. And if he keeps trying to damage my reputation, my lawyer will handle it. I came here to show you the truth. I can't make you accept it. Aaron stared at me like I'd slapped him. Wow, he said, so you're choosing money over family. I actually laughed then, a short, humorless sound. No, I said, I'm choosing reality over your fantasy. He stormed out again. My mom cried harder. My dad looked like someone had taken his favorite toy away. After that, I stopped trying to convince them. Not because I didn't care, because it was costing me my sanity. I limited contact. I blocked Aaron on social media. I told my parents that any communication about this would go through Priya. That should have been the end, but Aaron couldn't stand not being the center of the story. He needed a bigger stage, which is how he ended up at the launch event. The one my company spent months planning, the one with clients and industry press, and the first batch of purchase orders lined up, where Aaron decided to ambush me in public. When I saw him arrive earlier that evening, I'd felt my stomach drop. He was on the guest list. Security had waved him in because he looked like me and because people are still naive about how family can be used like a weapon. He hugged my mother in the lobby like a devoted son. He clapped my dad on the back. He didn't look at me. I knew then he was there for something ugly. I just didn't know he was going to grab a microphone. Now, on stage, he's still talking. The MC is trying to gently pull him aside, but Aaron is tall and stubborn and fueled by the kind of entitlement that makes people forget consequences exist. Ask her about the patent, he says. Ask her why my name isn't on it. Ask her why she won't admit what she did. I take a step toward the stage stairs, then pause and look at Priya. She's standing near the front with her arms folded, expression flat, but eyes sharp. She gives me the smallest nod like, you're okay. You have what you need. Don't panic. So I walk up the stairs. I can feel my legs shaking, but I keep moving. The lights make the audience blur into a dark sea, but I can still see my parents' faces. My mother looks horrified, but not at Aaron. At the scene, my dad looks like he wants to disappear. That old shame tries to crawl up my throat again. That urge to shrink so nobody is uncomfortable. I take the microphone from the MC before she can decide not to give it to me. My hand is steady. My voice, when I speak, is clear. Aaron, I say, and the room goes quiet in that startled way, like everyone can tell this is not a quirky family moment. You're accusing me of stealing your invention. Aaron lifts his chin. Because you did. I nod once. Okay, I say. Then let's be specific. What did you invent? His eyes flicker. It's a tiny moment, but I see it. He wasn't expecting questions. He was expecting me to be embarrassed into silence. The system, he says, vague. The whole idea. I look at him. The whole idea. I repeat. Then I turn slightly toward the audience. Patents don't protect the whole idea, I say. They protect specific claims, specific mechanisms, methods, and applications. I can't and won't discuss confidential details of a pending application, but I will say this. My invention is documented, developed, and filed through an attorney, and it is patented under my name because I invented it. Aaron laughs, but it's thinner now. Convenient. I reach down and pick up my folder from the chair I'd left near the stage. Because yes, I brought it tonight too, because I know my brother, and I hold up one page, not to show the crowd the contents, but to show that I'm not bluffing. This is my development timeline, I say. These are dated design iterations. This is correspondence with counsel. This is supplier communication. This is prototype documentation. This is what invention looks like in the real world. Not a rant at a dinner table. The audience is dead silent. I can hear someone swallow. I can hear the hum of the projector. Aaron's face reddens. "You're trying to humiliate me," he says, and there's a quiver in his voice that makes him sound suddenly younger. "You always have." I keep my tone level. "You came here to humiliate me," I say, "at my company event, in front of my clients. So let's be honest." He opens his mouth, but I continue, cutting through him the way he's cut through me my whole life. "You didn't build a prototype," I say. "You didn't write a specification. You didn't do testing. You didn't file anything. You didn't pay for counsel. You didn't contribute to the claims. What you did was hear me say I was working on something and decide you deserve a piece of it." A ripple goes through the room. Not a laugh, not applause, just that collective shift when people recognize a pattern they've seen before. Someone trying to claim credit for someone else's work. Aaron's eyes dart to our parents, searching for backup. My mom looks like she wants to melt into the carpet. My dad stares at his hands. Aaron points at me again, voice rising. "You're acting like I'm worthless." I take a slow breath. My heart is pounding, but the fear is changing shape. It's turning into something steadier. "I'm not saying you're worthless," I say. "I'm saying you're wrong." He shakes his head, laughing in disbelief. "You're insane." And that's the final attempt. The last bullet. The one he always uses when he's losing. Make me the unstable one. I look him straight in the face and say, calmly, "If you believe you have a legal claim, you can pursue it through counsel. But you don't get to sabotage my business with lies. Security will escort you out now." It's not a dramatic shout. It's not a threat. It's a statement of fact. The MC, bless her, signals the side door. 2 security staff step forward. Aaron's eyes widen. He wasn't expecting consequences. He never expects consequences. He takes a half step back like he might run, then stiffens and lifts his chin again. "You're going to kick me out?" he says loudly. "Your own brother?" "Yes," I say, and my voice doesn't wobble. "Because you're causing a disturbance and making false accusations." The security staff move closer. Aaron looks at my parents one last time. My mother's eyes are wet. My dad looks sick. Neither of them stands up. Neither of them says, "Aaron, stop." Neither of them defends me. But neither of them rescues him either. He spits out, "You'll regret this," like it's a curse. Then he lets security guide him toward the exit, still muttering, still shaking his head, still trying to look like the martyr being dragged away by corrupt guards. When the door closes behind him, there's this strange vacuum in the room. The MC looks at me like she's waiting for permission to resume. My hands are still trembling, but it's the kind of tremble you get after a near miss, not a collapse. I turn back to the microphone. "I'm sorry for that," I say to the audience. "That was not planned, and it was not representative of who we are as a company." Someone in the crowd, one of the clients I respect, an older woman with the kind of face that's seen every kind of ego, nods slowly. Not pity, recognition. I continue. "If you have questions about our product, we're here to answer them. If you have questions about family drama, I recommend you don't," I add, and that gets a small, relieving laugh. Not mocking, just human. After the event, when the crowd is dispersing and my team is packing up banners and demo units, my parents approach me like they're approaching a wild animal. My mother's mascara has smudged. My dad's shoulders look heavy. My mom starts with, "How could you do that to him?" Of course she does. "Hysteria, exhausted." How could he do that to me? I ask quietly. My dad opens his mouth, closes it, then says, "We didn't know he was going to." "Yes, you did." I interrupt, and it surprises even me. I'm not yelling. I'm just done lying. "You knew he was angry. You knew he was spreading things. You knew he was blaming me. You watched it happen for months." My mom's face tightens. "He's hurting, and I'm not," I say. My voice finally cracks just a little. "He tried to destroy my reputation in front of my clients. Do you understand what that means? That's my livelihood. That's my employees' jobs. That's not a tantrum. That's sabotage." My dad looks down at the floor. "He's always been impulsive," he murmurs. "There it is," I say. "That's the excuse. He's impulsive. He's passionate. He's stressed. He's misunderstood. And I'm supposed to be what? The sponge." My mother shakes her head like she's offended by the word. "You've changed," she says. I almost laugh because it's so on script. "Yeah," I say. "I have." She reaches for my arm, then stops like she's not sure she's allowed. "Family is all we have," she says softly, trying a different tactic. I look at her and feel something complicated. Love, resentment, grief, all tangled. "Family is supposed to be safe," I say. "Not a place where I have to prove I didn't steal something I built with my own hands." My dad finally looks up. His eyes are watery in a way I rarely see. "Is it really patented?" he asks, like he still needs the proof to land. I exhale slow. "Yes," I say. "And even if it wasn't, even if I'd never filed a thing, it still wouldn't belong to Aaron just because he said a sentence once." My mother's lips tremble. "He's going to hate you," she whispers. "He already does," I say, and I hate that it's true. Or he hates that I won't hand him credit he didn't earn. Either way, I'm not letting him hold my life hostage. They leave after that, quiet, like they've lost something but aren't sure what. My mom doesn't hug me. My dad gives my shoulder a brief squeeze like an apology he can't say out loud. 2 days later, Aaron posts again online, something vague about being silenced and cut off by greedy people. But this time, it doesn't get traction. People who were at the events saw what happened. Word travels fast in our industry, and not in the way Aaron thinks. You can call yourself a victim all you want, but professionals recognize instability when they see it. A week after that, Priya forwards me another email, this time from Aaron's lawyer, suddenly less aggressive. It's basically a retreat dressed up as seeking amicable resolution. They suggest a consulting arrangement. They suggest a licensing conversation. They suggest everything except admitting he has no claim. Priya calls me and says he wants money. I stare at my calendar, filled with production deadlines and client calls. "Tell him no," I say. She pauses. "Are you okay?" I think about the moment on stage when he called me evil. The way my parents looked at embarrassment instead of injustice. The way my body shook afterward like it was remembering every time I'd been cornered in childhood and told my feelings were too much. "I'm tired," I admit, but I'm okay. After that, I did what I should have done earlier. I made it formal. I sent Aaron a final message, through Priya, that said any further defamation or interference would be addressed legally, and that he was not to contact my clients or employees. I blocked his number. I told my parents I would not discuss him unless it was in the context of boundaries and safety. My mother tried to bargain. She suggested we all go to dinner and start fresh. My dad asked if I could just forgive him. I said no. Not forever, maybe, but no for now. Because forgiveness isn't a magic eraser, and I'm not forgiving someone while they're still holding the knife. The quiet that followed was strange. It felt like stepping out of a room where a TV has been blaring for years. At first, the silence is uncomfortable. Then you realize your shoulders are lowering. Then you realize you can breathe without waiting for the next attack. I still get moments where I miss the fantasy version of my brother. The one who could have grown up, gotten real, taken responsibility. I miss the fantasy version of my parents too, the ones who could have said, "Aaron, stop. You're wrong." But I'm learning to live in reality, not in what-ifs. And here's the part that makes me feel both guilty and relieved. When people in my industry talk about the incident now, they don't talk about the sister who stole ideas. They talk about that guy who crashed a launch and embarrassed himself. They talk about how calm I was. They talk about how I handled it like a professional. They talk about how obvious it was who had done the work. Evidence has a way of doing that. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It just sits there, dated, documented, undeniable. My family says I've changed. They say it like it's an insult. But they're right. I have changed. I'm no longer willing to be the person who shrinks to keep Aaron comfortable. I'm no longer willing to be the person who lets my parents' avoidance dictate my boundaries. I'm no longer willing to pretend that someone else's insecurity is my responsibility to manage. Aaron can call my invention his idea forever if he wants. He can tell anyone who will listen that I stole it. But the patents have my name. The prototypes have my fingerprints. The work has my time stamped all over it. And the people who matter, the ones who actually build things, can't tell the difference between a sentence at dinner and an invention that exists in the world.